Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sons and Daughters of Liberty. Tonight's show will be Ramblings of the Chaotic Mind. It's going to be a little bit topic-oriented tonight, but I got a lot to say on the topic, so. And it's a variety of topics, but they all fall into one category. Now, we are living in some troubled times. You know, it's just not here in the U.S., it's all around the world. I've been following what's been going on in a few places, like in the UK. I mean, the UK is dealing with knife problems, we're dealing with gun problems, and we're seeing two things happen, but they're the same. Restricting online sales of knives, how long before policies go into effect on YouTube about knives next, because I watched a UK prepper channel today. He came out with an update, basically, saying a lot of them were just kind of staying low key on the matter because, they talk about knives or show knives are subject for consequences. So, I mean, where does the madness stop, right? They don't have guns, but they have a higher murder rate with knives than we have with guns. I mean, where does it end? Where does a person's right to defend themselves? Hello, free spirit. But where does it end? Where does a person's right to defend themselves begin? And we've seen Europe, what all happens there, We've seen how bad it's getting. If it ain't knives, it's acid. If it ain't acid, it's cars. If it's not that, it's the B word. And yes, guys, I'm going to try to not drop the F word tonight. I think I got that out of my system. I hope I got it out of my system. But, it is the signs of the times, I guess. It's going to give me 1 second. I got to go share this in one more spot that I forgot. Oh, they can wait. Oh, you didn't miss nothing. It's been the same old on Tweaker. I'm going to also get into the platforms as well because there's just so much going on. I mean, we got guns under attack. We've got notifications went out today on YouTube to gun channels about starting today, they're giving a little leeway from the clean up their channels or safe or take repercussions of losing their channels or community strikes, which we know, our community, we know what's coming because we've dealt with it. We've seen it. We know countless thousands of channels. But you can't tell these guys anything. Oh, we don't show this. They're not. All right, believe what you want. Don't listen to the ones that have had this very same thing happen. Might not be on the same policy change, but on different policies. And we know how, it's just like the UK prepper said. When it comes to policy changes and stuff, there's such a leeway of interpretation. It doesn't matter how we interpret it. We're not the ones being one-sided and interpreting it a one-sided way. They're going to come up and formulate their own interpretation, and that's going to be the law of the land. They don't care what your interpretation of it is or our interpretation of it is. You know. But then if it's not that, it's Facebook and Twitter censoring people. Oh, wait. I'm sure people heard about Diamond and Silk. Well, they're unsafe for the Facebook community because of what they talk about, which is nothing wrong with what they talk about. You know, they have their opinions and views, just like you guys do. They express them. They're funny. I might not agree with everything that they say, but I don't agree with everything anybody says. If I did, there'd be something wrong, because then I would be living in delusional reality where I'm not thinking for myself. You know, the label game has gotten so far out of hand. Then we had the DHS say, well, we're going to put certain people that talk in the media, that can influence people on the social sites on a list. Well, we know how that works. From the last list that they wanted to put people on, that they wouldn't tell you until you went to go get aboard a plane and find out, what do you mean I can't fly? What do you mean I'm on a watch list? You know, and I have issues with that because where's the due process in that? Where's my right to prove my innocence? Where's my right? You know, we have so many issues, so many problems. And they all revolve like express yourself, to have your own thoughts, your own opinions, and they're coming after them every day. They're coming up with new ways to tell you it's this way or you won't have a voice on these platforms. It's gotten past the point of ridiculous. You know, it's getting to the point where how long before, you know, our cell phones and stuff pick up our private conversations in our home that we're not even talking on social media and we end up on a list. We know it happens. We're talking about our guns. Oh, let's put him on a list. He's got guns. We know to come here when we go to confiscate. I mean, that's how ridiculous things are getting. But we also live in a day and age. You can't tell anybody anything. You know, you try to reach out, help somebody out whose very freedoms are coming under attack. They want to blow it off. Oh, they're not going to do all that. You know, my patience with that part of it is getting real thin. And I might just be the one that has the attitude that I'm going to blatantly say, I told you so. Because maybe that's what you need. A hard dose of reality slapped up against their face. Because some of you guys out there are looked at as leaders in your community. And you're misleading your community. When that happens, that might be the day I break my rule about naming names. Because that's how fed up I've gotten with certain individuals that everybody listens to so they think they're safe. That's why we can never get a united stand on any issue. When all these issues have one common denominator, freedom. Your freedom. Your freedom to bear arms, your freedom to express yourself, your freedom to have your own opinions and views, your freedom to have your own religious views. And yeah, but I know how that one goes. Oh, but he's not a Christian, so he shouldn't have those freedoms. Yes, he should. Our founding fathers were quite clear on that. Religion. Religion is plural. There's many religions. Learn respect. It's all about respect when it comes to these things. Respecting your other fellow brothers and sisters' opinions and views. Respecting their religious beliefs. You know, I was listening to somebody, I can't remember who it was, because if I did, I'd give them all the credit for this, because what they said was so true. And it got me thinking. It's like, when they said it, it's like, huh? Because they were talking about the youth, the kids these days. But they weren't really blaming the youth. In fact, it goes back to some of the things I've said. But I missed something. See, this is what happens when you listen to other people in other communities. You learn stuff. And this was, to my personal opinion, probably more factual than any scientific-based facts you could put on this. Because it makes sense. I remember how I was raised. I talked with other people. We remember how we were raised. We were raised, you know, our parents worked. We grew up with our grandparents. We learn, and you do. You learn a lot of your morals, your respect for elders and stuff, and those wise wisdoms from your grandparents. Well, there's a time and a place for that, Bree. I've said that pointless time. Just flying off the handle gets you nowhere. It actually does the opposite in most cases. It loses the people that you want there with you. I get it, because I get the same frustrations that everybody else gets. It's like sometimes you're talking to a brick wall. In fact, I probably get a better conversation out of that brick wall. But there comes a point where there will be a time for no politeness to get the fact across. We haven't, in my personal opinion, at least here, hasn't got to that point. There's some issues where it is getting to that point. And we know I'm very capable of not being polite about things. For anybody that don't know, maybe you should go back and watch the video Truth. You can't handle the truth. Was not polite in that one. And I didn't pull no punches. I went after, called everyone out on that one. Because that is the truth. That's how they control us and divide us. You want the truth? Well, you can't handle the truth, because part of the problem lies right there. You can't break away from your labels. You can't realize we're all Americans, or you're all Europeans, British, whatever the term for that one's, or Brazilians, or Puerto Ricans. Whatever country you reside from, that's your nationality, that's your citizenship, that's your country. You know, what will you do to protect your country? What will you do to protect for those that actually have some freedoms within those countries? What will you do to protect them? What will you do when you say enough's enough? Now you see my point. Why is it when we have a major, major catastrophe, we can all come together and look past all these labels, but after that passes, after the healing starts and proceeds further, we all start falling back into our labels and dividing ourselves. Do you guys ever stop and ask why? Now back to the grandparents thing. They got off subject. You know, I remember what it was like. I remember how much my morals, my respect for things, how to respect others, those old wise wisdoms came from my grandparents. Me and my grandmother didn't get along. In fact, we hate each other. But she's still my grandmother. You know? I still learned a lot from her. There was more good days than there was bad. You know? And, you know, I learned a lot from her. I learned more from my grandfather because that's who I was closest to. But from my grandmother, I learned how to can, cook, bake. Nothing wrong with that, guys. You should learn how to do some of that stuff. Because one day, you might have to be able to do that stuff. It's like it's nothing wrong for the women to learn how to use power tools, how to work, change oil, change tires, change their brakes on their cars, and maintenance their cars. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Because you may need that skill at some point. But our youth, they haven't grown up with that with their grandparents like we did. And this was an astonishing revelation on my part. I don't know how I've ever overlooked it. Because, most cases, both parents work. But most cases now, it's not like my generation. We were still having kids in our mid-20s. Now, most people are waiting to get married, have kids until they got their career settled. They're starting to be in their 30s, mid-30s when they're having their first child. Which means as the child gets older, more than likely their grandparents won't be there anymore. You figure, if you're 30, when was your parents born? When did your parents have you? How old were they when they had you? So start doing the math. We're starting to see more and more of that now where the grandparents ain't part of the family structure anymore. Our youth is missing that wisdom that they are learned and instilled from being with their grandparents. I never thought of it that way. I've always, the design structure, making both parents work. I missed the other structure, the programming and the brainwashing. Well, you need to get your career first. You need to get established. Which, if you're going after your degrees, by the time you get your degrees and get established, you're in your 30s, pushing mid-30s before you might find that person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, raise a family with. So by the time that the child's 8, 9, 10, the grandparents may have passed. So they're missing a key fundamental structure in their lives, a teaching structure. And it made so much sense. And it shows why we see a lot of lacking of morals, lacking of respect within the youth. Not all youth. I know plenty of youth that are smart, well-mannered, and full of respect. And you can see and that shows how they were brought up. But we are reaching that point. More and more families aren't getting married. I mean, it bothers me a bit more because I'm in that category. I'm 40, not married, no kids. Spent most of my time bachelor. And I guess in men it takes a little bit longer for that paternal thing to sink in. It's like, yeah, man. What was I thinking all those years? But that's how our last few generations have been brought up. That's how, even my generation was probably one of the last few generations that got to experience a parent at home with us. And, by mid-90s, both my parents were working. That was no longer there, but I still had my grandparents. I had my grandfather for at least a couple of years in my early teens. So, after school, we'd be at our grandparents, waiting for our parents to get home. But also in my age, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media. All these different distractions. Like I said, they're a tool. If used properly, they're a good tool. But right now, you can't use it. They're making it so you can't use it properly. They're now making it so where it's more of a thought police. If you talk about certain subjects, you're unsafe for this platform. You're unsafe for this community. Well, if I'm deeming you unsafe, now we got DHS saying, well, you're unsafe. You put on this list. And I'm shocked there's not many more people out there talking about this. I've heard a few. I mean, we live in a day and age where every day it seems like we're hearing more and more of how we're being oppressed, how our narratives are being controlled, how you can only talk about these subjects, you can only show this stuff, this content on your channel now. You know, yes, we have a broad spectrum of places you can go. Let me tell you something. To those that are using Vimeo, I used Vimeo before YouTube. And guess what? My content was deemed unsuitable for Vimeo. Now think about that. My content was deemed unsafe or inappropriate for Vimeo. What are they going to do to you guys? Like I said, they beta test a lot of this stuff on other platforms before they hit the big platforms. But for most people, all that never happened. Until they experience it, it never happened. It doesn't happen. You know, it goes back to that selectively picking certain groups. The ones, oh, it's that person, or it's, oh, that's that group. So everybody blows it off. Yeah. I was watching Be Rich's podcast today. I had missed the live version, but I caught it later. And he was talking about New Jersey and some ruling on vaccines, how they're trying to take away one of the parents' last-ditch efforts to keep their kids from being vaccinated, which is falling under the religious clause against my religious beliefs. So they're trying to take that away. And, you know, they showed a video. I'll link his video to this when I'm done. I'll grab it here in a second. But he talked about it a little bit. Here's what I want you guys to understand. I'm not going to cover what he covered, but I am going to point something out here. Here's what you guys all fail to realize. If they get that off in New Jersey, it's coming to your state. Here's what you guys don't realize. Here's why it's so important to take a stand immediately on these issues. Because if it passes and becomes a law in that state, now every other state, every other attorney, lawyer, state representative can look at that case and quote from that case or quote from that law to enforce that law in that state. Our federal branch can go look at that, and if nobody fights it, and it never reaches the Supreme Court, our federal branch can go, oh, these states passed that, so we can go ahead and pass this into law. That's the danger, guys. That's what you guys miss when you say, oh, it's just New Jersey, or, oh, it's just Illinois, that suburb of Chicago, or it's just California. No. There's a bigger picture. When they can get that stuff off and those little problem child that everybody, they know you'll blow off, they've won. Once they get it off, they've won. It's on the books. It's law. Now you got to go through the process. That could take years to win. Because it could take years for it to actually reach the federal court level. That's what nobody seems to get and understand. That's why it's so important to stand up for each other and defend every one of our freedoms, no matter who it is. If it's a freedom that's a constitutional freedom that's under attack, it is our duty as Americans, as citizens, to stand up for our brothers and sisters. And yes, no matter what their belief, political views are, they're still your brothers and sisters. They're Americans. Doesn't matter the color of their skin, their ethnicity. If they are an American, a citizen, they are your brothers and sisters. You should be standing beside them, not arguing about their politics or what label they define themselves as. Until we can break that cycle, we're going to keep getting screwed. We're going to keep getting rolled over. Because in the end, it's not about a label. All labels do, I'll repeat this until I'm blue in the face and probably until I'm in my grave. All labels do is divide. They subjugate. What is subjugation? Go research the word subjugation. When you take labels and start creating subcategories for the label, as we've seen, I'll use the most modern term for some of you, the alt community, the alt-right. How many fractions is there now? How many subcategories of alt has there become? And alt is not a new term. There's alternative music. That's what alt is abbreviated for, alternative. Alternative views. Different. It's great to be different. You know, like I said, it's great to not always agree on things. You learn that way. But every day, you know, I'm glad it's starting to warm up. Well, can't say that. It's snowing today. Second week of April, snowing. I got level high weather. Thankfully, today was supposed to be the last day. We're supposed to warm up. Hopefully. But I also remember a time where I'd seen snowbanks in June, so we just had a bad winter that year, but it was taking snow that long to melt from all the snow we got. We didn't get it like that. We just got periodically snow melt and cold weather. You know, that's the other thing they'll trip us on. They'll get us arguing about weather, climate control, chemtrails. Is the earth flat or is it round? Man, I thought we had that whole narrative solved during Columbus's time, but apparently they like bringing it back up from every so many generations or every so many centuries. I mean, you guys, it's hard to paint this picture for you guys to understand things until you experience them. And I understand that. I used to be that guy that had to learn things the hard way every time. You couldn't tell me nothing. Yeah, I learned that's not the right way. I mean, it'll get you there the long way and the hard way. I mean, you'll go through the school of hard knocks for sure. Yeah, I've learned, no. That's not, there's an easier way to do this. But that's through experience. That's through learning to realize there's certain times to be a rebel and certain times not to be. There's certain times where it's actually more appropriate to set back. Unfortunately, this ain't one of those times. Because right now, those are being silent on the matter. You're actually compounding the problem. Just like here on YouTube. I want to show you guys a few things. Stop sharing. You guys are going to look at my ugly mug here for a second. Yeah, I got to pull it up. This is from today. Now, today was at midnight, at 12 a.m. today, the new policies went into effect on YouTube. Now, I have a big problem with this. And this is going to offend some people because they think the NRA is all about join the NRA or lose your guns, right? That's what that says. That was on YouTube today on a channel, in fact, on a channel that has nothing to do with guns, mind you. pure living. But basically, they're building their own homestead. You know, it's actually for those that want a good life experience to watch somebody share their life and what they've set goals to do, build their own house, buy their own land, sacrifice things as a couple, and make their dream come true. Check that channel out, Pure Living. They're awesome. And you'll learn a bunch of stuff. But, as you guys can see, that was today at 6:23. Wait, at 12 a.m., the policies went in effect. Scooch got a notification from YouTube. He shared it on Patreon. I shared it on Twitter. Let me just go find that. I think it was Scooch. No, it wasn't Scooch. It was Step 1 Survival. Apparently. Screw it. We'll just go to Patreon. It's a lot easier. Man, I wish they put that dog down. He's like 16, I don't know, almost 18 years old. I mean, he's still living now. Still able to bite, as I found out today. Oh yes, that dog's lucky. He's he belongs to my sister because I once spent just almost $3,000. But, well, I guess it was $3,000 well worth it because that was about 6 years ago. And he's still kicking. All right, here we go. Let me stop sharing. I'll share this because he did share it on tweeted out. So, dear owners of YouTube channel Step 1 Survival, as you probably are already aware, as March 28, 2018, YouTube added more rules to firearm policies that prohibits multiple facets of the gun culture, reloading, installation, machining, etc. These new restrictions have already or will be impacting gun channels in the very near future in the form of channel strikes or video takedowns. That's what he received today. And for those of us already that familiar with how this little strike system works, video takedowns, oh yeah, more than likely you'll lose your channel. Many of them will, because they think they just remove certain content, they're going to be okay. It's not going to stop there, as we found out. So now you can see why I have a problem with the NRA running ads like this. Now, so for some of you guys might not have this problem. You might say, well, I don't see nothing wrong. They're trying to get people. They're trying to get money so they can fight these things. Okay, they're taking your money that you're giving them, $30 for your membership. They're taking your money and paying to advertise on YouTube who installed these gun policies to restrict these gun content. Is that something you want to support? Do you think that's right? Is that where you want your money to go? To pay for advertisement on a platform that's trying to take your content, take our ability to go learn how to clean, rebuild our firearms, maintain our firearms, how to properly load our shells so we don't screw things up? Once more, then what was it, last year, the year before that? I don't give an inch for a bunch of you guys sent your NRA memberships back, writing on them, we don't give an inch. They're paying to run their advertise, and by paying, they're supporting YouTube's policy. Now, some of you might look at that a bit different. Some of you probably, when you hear that part, this part, will unfollow me and unsubscribe because you think the NRA is all about you. They are a corporation. They're no longer an organization. They are a corporation. They step in when they feel necessary to build up their coffers. They've given an inch one too many times. They're not speaking for we the people. They're not about we the people, only when it suits them. By paying YouTube to run these advertisements, these ads, they're supporting YouTube's policy on firearms. And that's just a cold, hard truth. You know, and it's not a fluke. Be Rich's podcast today that I watched. Free hat, join the NRA, annual membership, only $30. Choose to fight or surrender your guns. Join the NRA, ads by Google. That was done at 3:44 today. Last week. Which, I could be cool with this one, except for they knew. They've known since the 18th, just like all of us did in March. But yet, they're still running their ads. I guess people don't have a problem with that. I guess you guys think that your money is going to fight this when it's going towards advertisement, paying Google and YouTube to run ads to then collect more money from you. And by doing so, they're supporting these gun bans or restricting gun stores searches on Google search, as I caught and showed you and took you step by step how it worked, how I had to go to another platform to access the very same link. This is who they're giving money to advertise. I call it like I see it. And that's what we need to do. When we see a wrong, we need to point it out. We need to call them on it. Or we need to find another organization that is about we the people, that isn't about the bottom dollar. One that's not going to selectively pick their fights. One that's going to fight every time for your right to bear arms. Organizations are going to fight for your right to have freedoms of speech, freedom to express yourself, freedom to have your own opinions and views. These are the very same topics that we need to be talking about every day. Just not one of us, all of us, every single one of us from every community. What's that show? That shows we're united, not divided. That shows we're not going to stand for this any longer. That we're tired of them trying to take our freedoms and liberties away from us. We're tired of it. We don't want, it also sets a point to our government. We're not going to stand here and idly by and let you put us on a list because we have a different opinion and view than you guys. Just because you want this to be the norm. I don't live in your norm. My normal every day is people in the community still talking to each other, talking about these issues openly, respecting each other for human beings, not labeling ourselves. And that's my norm. My norm is talking to other people, listening to other people in our community, standing up for them when nobody else wants to. Because that's what it's going to take. You know, more and more. There's a post today. Now the CW word being thrown around again. This time by Jack Prosnick of Twitter. I mean, in a sense, you know, they won a civil war. In a sense, you know, for those that don't know their history, we're kind of starting to repeat that. And it had nothing really to do with race. It had everything to do with economics, taxation. It had everything about states trying to not follow the Constitution, follow federal mandates that decided to stand up and try to secede from the Union. How many states do we see that are claimed to be sanctuary cities, where every time when it comes to protecting our borders, protecting our sovereignty, that they'll try to block legislation, a law passed in Congress, or an executive order that Trump signed in Ninth Circuit federal court? You know, that is a very important issue that I think some people fail to understand the full ramifications of it. What happens when you allow people just to cross into your border unvetted, without being checked for diseases and stuff, quarantined for a period of time to make sure that they don't have contagious diseases like TB, measles, smallpox? They just cross into our borders and start flooding in these sanctuary cities. We've heard reports of new cases of TB, smallpox, measles outbreaks in these sanctuary cities. Oh, they want to blame it on the vaccines. People are becoming immune to the vaccine, the strain. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the influx of illegal immigration, illegal aliens flocking to these sanctuary cities. It's the oldest tactic of war. Force refugees into another country in a massive. Why? What happens? Disease starts out to outbreak. There's no vaccine for any of that. It's because you're introducing a mass group of population that maybe not have those older vaccines or stuff, and it starts to outbreak again. And I'm against vaccines. Because I've witnessed firsthand what they do to people. And I don't care what scientific evidence or scientists you want to put in front of me, I witnessed what a vaccine does to a child firsthand. More than once. So, you know, you can't tell me any different on that. they like to. They like to push it and ram it down our throats saying, oh, they've become weak. It has nothing to do with becoming weak. You're going to at least state the facts. State the facts that it's due to having a mass number of illegal immigrants crossing into our border, spreading disease. You know. But there's another argument. Some people firmly believe vaccines work. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. More often than not, they cause more damage than good. You know, there's so many things going on. I know, and it's easy to get distracted with all the stuff. It's hard to come together as a united front and take and challenge these very issues because we're not going to agree on everything. The fact is, when they start to take away your freedom, this is what it boils down, your freedom to make that choice, to vaccinate your child or not. You should have that choice. You're the parent. You're the one bringing that child and will be raising that child in this world. No form of government should ever have that choice over your child. Let me grab that link I said I was going to grab before I forget. I'm going to put it in chat, bro. I'll come back and put it in my description after I finish the video. Oh, that was the wrong one. Of course. Now my computer wants to run slow. You know, there's just so much going on. And sometimes we do have to pay attention to what's going on in other countries as well, because sometimes that can carry over into our country. I mean, how long before these platforms say, oh, you can no longer do anything with knives, all because of what's happening in the UK? Or when we want to talk about protecting our borders, and we decide to use, what's most recent occurrence would have been UK and the violence that uptick from allowing refugees to come in unvetted. Okay. Yeah, see? That's why it is also important to pay attention around the world. It's like I'm closely paying attention to what's going to be happening in Brazil with their influx of refugees pouring across from Venezuela. And that's a touchy subject because we put our military on our border, but what is the job of the military? To protect our sovereignty, to protect our country. And part of protecting that is also protecting our borders. Yeah, I have my fears on that. What'll happen the first time shots are actually fired across the border? It could happen. There's plenty of devil advocates that could be played on that one. the pros and cons of it. Because, shooting across somebody's border could trigger an event. So there is dangers to it. But there's also dangers by not protecting our borders, by just letting them come in, whether it be through disease. Why such the issue of the gun debate all of a sudden? Why is a certain subject that happened a couple of weeks ago not being talked about? That's being pushed under the rug. Well, that's kind of obvious because it breaks down the ugly truth. Some people were making a living on YouTube by monetizing their content. Some people, their livelihood became being able to do videos and make money off it. And it was through censorship and other tactics taken away from them, or so restricted that they can no longer make that livelihood. They want to control the narratives. I mean, that was the ugly truth about it. I'm sure there's other theories about it as well. To me, yeah, they pissed off the right person. The right person went postal. I mean, shit happens. People do dumb things. But yes, I'm saying that was dumb. Because it was. Innocent lives were lost. Should have never happened. But that's people. Can't blame it on the gun. Can't blame it on whatever was used. It was a person that made a very bad choice. And there was repercussions to that bad choices. We could talk about, it could have been prevented. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe something else would have set that person off. We will never know. But we know what led up to it and the cause of it. Why it's not being talked about like every other shooting? Because it goes against the narrative. Oh, and it goes really against the narrative. It was a female this time. And let me tell you, some of the coldest serial killers to ever to be put in books were a woman. It's very rare, but they are some of the most lethalest killers ever when it comes to that type of scenario. But the point is, it doesn't matter male or female. When that person reaches that point and gets that in their mind, they're going to do it. There's nothing in the world can stop it. Unless you intervene before it ever gets to that point. The answer isn't come take your guns because it happened. The answer isn't cause all the censorship and restrict these things because it happened. That's not the answer. Can't put a Band-Aid over it. The answer is calling it for what it was. A person, a human, made a bad choice. And it happens. People make bad choices. Choices that will end up affecting not only them, but others. And you call it for what it is. You don't blame it on the instrument, because it could have been easily any other instrument. UK, it's knives and cars. But yet how many hundreds of thousands of people die a year from car accidents, drinking and driving, texting? Are we banning the cars? No. But it happens. Why? A person made a very poor choice. When we live in a day and age where you can be easily hands-free. Most cars you buy now, you can answer your phone right from the radio. Most phones have voice commands where you can text, call, right by giving it a command. There's no excuse for texting or driving anymore. know, for real, there should be no excuse for drinking and driving. You know, I know what I can drink and still be able to drive, but you know what my rule is? 1. If I've drank 1, anything after that, I will not drive. It's not that I'm impaired or drunk. I take a lot more than just 1. The fact is, if I was in an accident and I had alcohol in my breath, or I smelled of alcohol, or smelled of weed or whatever the drug may be, that can be used against me in a court of law. I made a choice that could have impaired my judgment reaction, which, you know, I completely agree with all that scenario, except for I do know alcohol will do that. The other, not so much, but, you know, that's potatoes. Somebody's going to say one thing, another person's going to say another. And it goes back to, you know your limits. You know where's the cutoff point. You know, me, I'm not going to take the risk. I'm going to stop. If I have 1, I'm good. If I have anything more than 1, I won't drive. Or I'll have somebody else drive, or somebody pick me up. You know, I'm not that big of a drinker anymore anyway, more a social drinker. But when it's warm out, I do enjoy a beer or 2 after a hard day of work. During the winter, not so much. You know, when I'm out with friends, we're at a bar or something, I occasionally enjoy a couple beers. Or I'll be the designated driver. Doesn't matter to me. It comes about having responsibility as well, knowing yourself, knowing the situations, knowing that every time you make a choice, there's consequences. When you choose to be silent on matters, there's consequences. When you choose not to step outside your community to protect another community, there is major consequences to that. When you choose to have the mentality, oh, it was this person, oh, it's that state. Oh, he was a criminal. There's consequences to that line of thinking, especially if it's violating the Constitution. Oh, he was a criminal. He didn't deserve due process. What? Let's reverse that. Let's say you got caught up. You didn't do anything, but they're blaming you, and they think you did it, and they take away your due process. Why? Because you guys let this person, who was a criminal, you let them take away his due process. See, when you reverse the situation, you realize how they get people every time. Why? Because it's in the books. You allowed it to happen. So therefore, it's happened. They can quote it, and they can do it to you now. See, that mentality of thinking, that label, adhering to a label, or judging a label, leads us down these roads every time. It leads us down the roads of division, of having our freedoms and rights taken away. Because once it happens to one group, it's easily used to take it away from another group. And these are the very principles that they have been working on for years, hundreds of years, perfecting with each generation. So they can get to a point in time where they can just take it all away. Yes, we are living in some very troubled times. Just not here in the United States, but around the world. You know, there's many factors that can be even talked about when we get to that point that contributes to it. Economics is a major contributor. almost every country is so far in debt it's not funny. And many generations, they only know one way to pay a debt, or not pay a debt. Or they know from world wars that they make money. Yes, I picked back my bad habit up. So it's alcohol, and others it's tobacco. You know, like I said, I don't have all the answers. I have some for some things. I have ideas. I have my own views and opinions. But they matter not if we keep so far divided. They don't matter. They don't matter if we keep having that mentality, oh, it's got to happen to us before we believe it. Well, by the time it happens to you, it's already happened to others, and you're already too late. You know, we should be always on top of these things. You know, and we shouldn't be scared to call things out when we see somebody doing something wrong, no matter who it is. No matter what organization or platform. There should be never no fear about calling that out. Maybe it was just the person made a mistake. Wasn't thinking before they said something. It happens. I've done it. I'm sure you guys have done it. We do that a lot. But we own up to it. We fix the problem. Sometimes we get caught up in the moment. You know, that's why I've tried very hard not to do when things break, just happen, and on an event scale, not to talk about it. Wait, let the facts flow in. Research, watch it unfold before I speak on it. Gather my own opinions and views on the matter. Because I'm responsible for what I talk about. I'm responsible for you guys, how you take it and use that information. You know, I'm accepting that responsibility when I do these things. I'm also expecting the responsibility of telling you guys, these are my opinions and views. Do your own research. Yes, it's kind of chucking the responsibility over to you, because that is your responsibility, not to take everything anyone says at face value. You're to always question everything. Everything. That's the other problem. Nobody questions anything anymore. And the ones that do, oh, you're unsafe for this platform. Or you're a conspiracy theorist. Or you're a Russian bot. Or any other term. Who knows what tomorrow's term for it's going to be. But the DHS's answer to that is, we're just going to put you on our list. Well, we know the dangers of what history taught us about being put on lists. What happens to people that get put on lists? History has shown us that. And it's the darker parts of our world history. Now, me as an everyday citizen, if I say I'm going to put somebody on the list, I'm going to have people knocking at my door. You know? But yet, there's that two-sided coin. People think they're above the law, above reproach. No one's above reproach. That's why the Second Amendment's always under attack. Not even our government is above reproach. That's why our freedoms of speech and expressions are always under attack. Because if we start voicing our opinions, we start talking about what they don't want us talking about, or what doesn't fit the status quo of the day, and we're calling them out on these things because we know they're not above reproach. We're the bad guy. You know, I've got friends in all walks of life. Some are ex-felons. Some of those ex-felons, the horror stories that you can learn from that, how bad our prison systems are. Let me rephrase, how bad the multi-billion-dollar corporation of prison system is. It's what it is, the multi-billion-dollar corporation is. How that only 1% can ever get out. And that's because they're walking on eggshells. They're giving away any and every freedom that they are entitled to. And they're not as much as even looking at somebody wrong. Just to get out of that revolving door. You know, so many people are quick to judge, well, they committed a crime, they deserve it. They deserve to have their rights taken away. No. Once they serve that time, once they've done whatever paper they have to do, parole, probation, whatever you want to call it, they deserve to have their rights reinstated. But there's that label. That's that mentality. You're only going to judge that person by the mistakes he made. Not that this person has gotten out. Was that 1% and working his ass off or her ass off to be an outstanding role model and citizen, to have everything that the American dream entitles them to have. You know, it's all this mentality program thinking that we've been brainwashed with. You know, I was watching Be Rich Again. He posted something, and it's some show that I can't remember the name of it, but it was how they were saying this certain thing. He was counting it off how many times they said it. It's repetition. You say a thing enough, it slowly ingrains and embeds itself in the subconscious mind. The more repetitive, the more sing-song, rhymey rhythm it is to it, it's easier to implant that idea, that thought, to numb you to it, or to make you think, oh, there's nothing to see here, or you've been taught wrong because of that nature. There's so much of that going on today. That's how we've gotten to the state we're in. And that's why we're in very troubled times, because, I mean, yeah, we're not seeing all the big protests like we were a year ago, but we still have that division. We have that we're, as a community, we're not standing up for everyone. We're not standing up for the American citizen. We're only standing up for those in our community. And if it affects anybody else in the other communities, it doesn't have nothing to do with us. You know, if people would have 5, 6 years ago went and did the research, they would have known what's happening on Facebook now. They would have known. But no, you deemed all the people that talked about that as conspiracy theorists. You had to wait to see it happen. You know, here's the worst part is, now that it's all out there, Why? Why drop the narrative? Nobody's asking that question right now. What's the catch? Why now? What's the catch? I don't even know the answer to that one. But I keep thinking it. Why now? What's the catch? Because now you're basically saying all these groups that you keep labeling and you want to do away with. You're saying they're right. They were right. What's the catch? And that's going to be a topic for later. Because there's a catch. That's why I'm actually kind of following it. I want to see what's next. What do they have implemented? Are they going to use this as the event to strip everything, control the narrative? Makes sense, because they did pass slide stuff in the last bill. They want a governing body over all of the internet, one central person to police the whole internet. Is that going to be the catalyst for that? Something to keep an eye out for and watch. Oh wait, they're going to call me a conspiracy theorist now, or I'm unsafe, or I'm a propagandist. No, I'm questioning the things I see. I'm a free thinker. If you want to label me anything, call me a free thinker. That's me. I don't care about politics. I don't care about the label you put yourself to, and I'm labeled to. That's not how I would vote. I don't vote Republican, Democrat, Independent, Socialist, Communist, or any of that crap. It's a label. It's crap. I vote based on the person. Are they going to uphold and protect our freedoms, our constitutional rights, and our Bill of Rights? Are they going to uphold the law of the land? Or are they going to be bought out and paid for by corporations that want to strip everything? That's how you should look at politics. That's how you should look at every candidate. And when it comes to election time, when they want to bring in, let the candidates speak, we all should be demanding that every candidate has their voice and time on that stage. Or we don't want you to be airing that, because you're controlling the election cycle by saying what you deem as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, deeming that they can't have a voice on that stage. That is unconstitutional, and that's wrong, because they have every right to speak. You just don't want them. Maybe those are the real people that we would vote for. You just don't want them in there because they're not going to hold the status quo. They're going to question everything. They're going to be the ones to truly defend our Constitution. That's why they do it. I don't want to hear Russian bots did it, or these ad agencies did it. Our media's been doing it for years by saying, oh, you need at least 14 or 15% of the popular vote to speak, to have this be on stage and talk in front of a live audience. That's controlling the election. I mean, let's call it for what it is. That's saying the other people don't have a voice. They're not a viable candidate. Well, how do you know? That's not your job to decide. That's my job. That's your job to decide. Every one of you out there that vote, that's your job to decide. They don't want these people talking for a reason. Ask yourself, why don't they want them talking? Why don't they want them reaching a wide audience? And then we get people talking about the other distractions, the trending or QAnon. I can't stand. I mean, I listen to it, some of it, follow some of it, just because sometimes there's interesting talking points you can make out of it. As far as any of that being factual, yeah, okay. Some of it is, like I said, the best lies told with a little bit of truth. But no, Trick no good. Especially how when it first came out, how everybody was jumping on it, how they were using just abbreviated words, things that could mean anything, things that they would know the way things are going. Anybody could predict that shit. Even I could. And make you believe it. Just by using abbreviated words. AC, which AC might mean something completely different to me, to you, than you. But yet, AS, AGS, all, I mean, and you can make the narrative sound enticing, and you can make it sound so real when it actually happens, or something that your mind is going to put those letters and put a name to it. That's the oldest trick in the book. And so many people have fell for it. It's a distraction, distracting you from what's really going on. Because if that person was a true patriot, a true believer that believes in the Constitution, wants to defend it, they wouldn't hide. They wouldn't talk in riddle and code. Because we don't live in times like that, where that's needed. But yet I hear people swearing by it every day. Then when something slightly changes, because they might have got caught on something and they change it up just a little bit, oh, it's not that person anymore. Oh, maybe it is. He just changed. Guys, quit falling for that crap. We have real issues. We have real problems. We have real corruption going on. We'll never argue that fact in our government. We have people in our government, but we've had people in our government since the Constitution was signed. That was never for this country. That was never for America. We called them loyalists. The Loyalist Party. Things haven't changed. We just create new names to hide what they really are. We give them new labels, new titles with each generation. Yeah. Some people, oh, it's the deep state. Huh? Been the deep state since the signing of the Constitution, since we held our first Congress. What it's become, it's become a lot harder for them to hide the things they do. Which is the reason why we end up where we're at today. But they want to control the narrative in every aspect. They want to censor on every aspect. They want to put you on a list, deem you unsafe to be on this platform. Make you confide to policy changes. Slowly taking your freedoms away, your free thought, your free creativity, your right to express yourself away until the only expression, the only thing that comes out of your mouth is what they tell you to do, what they've just programmed you to do. Confide. Fall in line. You speak for us. You don't speak for yourself. That's not what America is. Never has been and never will be. That's what no country should ever allow to happen. You know, it's a shame that we have to be able to have something like this to talk about. Just to have an audience. I'd love to be talking about other positive things, other things that's important, how to better ourselves. Well, it starts here with standing up for our rights and freedoms. Because we can never better ourselves if they keep taking those things away. Because then we will just be lambs before the slaughter, controlled. You know, it's just like everyone wants to create a new movement. Delete Facebook. Hashtag delete Facebook. Sounds good. Guess you guys forgot about the policies and implementations they put in 2009. No, I deleted a Facebook account. You know what? Once a week, I still get a notification to go back and reactivate my Facebook account. Why? Because you can't truly delete your Facebook. It is permanently archived. That's something else people forget. We live in a digital age. We've been living in it forever. I remember when I first got on it, and we started, seeing things. You know what the first thing was taught to us? Once you put it on the internet, it will always be on the internet. You know, that goes back to choices. There's just some things probably best you don't put out there. If it's something you don't want anybody else to see that you would class as private, don't put it on your damn phones. Don't put it on your damn iPads, or don't put it on your computer. Or if you do put it on your computer, disconnect your computer from the internet and put it on a portable hard drive. And once it's on there, unplug it so it's not on your computer when you go back online. Common sense. You guys give out sometimes too much information. Way too much. You guys have forgotten what private should be. You know, my cell phone, when it is active, doesn't have any of my important contacts in there. None. I will not program a contact in there. I'm old school. I keep it still written down. You know, part of my EDC, everyday carry, is a little telephone book of contacts and numbers. Don't put them on any electronic device. But it's become the norm. Your banks now give out the information to third parties. That's why I quit doing business with any bank. First question I asked, for my last bank account that I had, was, well, do you share information with any third party? I mean, any information. If their answer was yes, I walked out. I'm not going to do business with you. I finally found one. It lasted for 9 months, and they changed their policy. Well, they send it in your mail, let you know. Most people, okay, nothing important, trash. Instead of reading it and actually finding out, whoa, wait, doesn't sound like it's that important, but it is important. Oh, we're not giving away personal information. We're just giving away something. Any information they give away is important information because it's your bank. So now, I don't have a bank account because no bank in my area has a policy that protects you from third-party information. They all give third-party information out. See, that third party is a loophole because that third party has its third party, and that third party has its third party. There's so many strings attached to it that you couldn't follow the strings. That's how third parties work. Sometimes we just gotta realize, hey, we're adults here. We should know better. We shouldn't be posting all this information or access to this information. Some things are meant to be private. Our financials should be private. You know, the IRS knows how much we make because they get the records from our pay stub. Just like I know if I make over $10,000 on PayPal, I have to file taxes on it. But I also know my PayPal is linked as a business and has more than one person attached to it. That means each of those people, including the company, has to make over $10,000 before the business has to file taxes. Which, you know, does me a little good now because I'm not running a business, but it did at the time when I set it up. You know, just like I'm sure I'm going to eventually catch flack for having a Patreon account. Well, guess what? My Patreon account's much like my PayPal account. It's there. If you want it, use it. If not, you're free to see everything I post. There's nothing paid for it. You don't have to pay for nothing on my channel. It's just another tool. Another tool that I realize I'm going to need. If I want to keep doing videos, keep uploading stuff. It gives me the ability to upload audio content in case I lose all my videos. Because if I lose them there or here, I lose them on my Wordpress, anywhere I've shared a link to, uploaded it through a link. I lose it all. But I've got contingencies to that now. Unlikely, but everything's a tool. And I have no problem with using tools. No matter what niche they might be in, as long as it's legal. Because I have information that I'm not going to let them censor me or control my narrative or restrict me from talking about things. You know, I believe in how our forefathers did things. I understand they realized certain forms of communications were used as tools back then. Yes, we're in a digital age. That means all digital platforms become our tools. That means we might use platforms that we would never consider ever using. But, hey, it gets us around stuff that allows us to upload our videos over an hour long. It's a tool. It allows me to give you and share these content. And then I'm pretty sure some of you guys figured out what certain sites I'm talking about. For those that don't and haven't heard what certain people have done, you'll figure it out. But then there's going to be the others that's going to be way so judgmental. You're using what? I'm using the tools that I have available to keep my message from being erased. And that means going to a porn site to upload a video so I can get a link. So be it. Like I said, tools. And I know a few people that went down that route. I know a few gun channels that went that way. When I first heard it, I was like, what? No. Yeah, I said that. I'm like, well, you know what? They're actually geniuses. But eventually, even they're going to get nailed there, so it doesn't matter. But it keeps them afloat. It keeps that content flowing. But we shouldn't ever let it get to that point. Now, here's the real point. It should never get to that point. We should be standing up to it now. We should be demanding the NRA pull their advertisements from YouTube. If they're so much about guns and protecting our rights, they would demand YouTube change their policies or stop paying them for their ads. Because if you're paying Google and YouTube to run your ads, then you're supporting their very policies. You know, boycotts do work. We've seen them work over the past few years. It's just getting everybody to do it. Adhere to it. Stand up. Come out from that rock you're hiding under and take a stand. Quit judging a person because they're this or that. They're losing their same freedoms that you're losing. In many cases, they're going to go after those because they know, oh, it's just that person, or it's just that state, or it's just whatever label that they pick on. Because everybody will, oh, it's just that. You guys got to understand what's transpiring. You really do. Or else we're not going to get anywhere. And these troubled times are going to get worse. And eventually, there won't be no place to go to get our messages out anymore. Because they'll even start restricting your newsletters that you send out to people. Or your emails. They can control it all if they want to, when they want to. Well, we'll flag that as spam. Nobody checks their spam folder. Or, okay, they wised up to that. Well, we'll just restrict how much they can type, or we'll restrict how much they can send. Or we'll just delete that person's account so they can't send. There's no running, guys. Running is not the answer, hasn't been the answer. And for those that think it's the answer, you are going to be in for a very rude awakening. I'm telling you that from experience. I've been there, done that. To the point where I decided to go in business with somebody and create my own platform, that I found out the real truth, the ugly truth. There is no such thing as a free speech platform. There will never be. Then you get in the ones that do get it off for a little bit. You get the label game being pulled. Oh, you're letting this? Hello, that's what a free speech platform is. Everything goes. Every view, every belief, every philosophy, ideology is protected under free speech and freedom of expression, freedom of religion. It'll all be on that site. It's up to you, the individual, to be responsible for yourself. Not go after that person's freedoms and rights, but be responsible, be an adult, respect their freedoms and their rights, and not watch it. Hello, parental control things work for parents as well, where you can block adult content so you don't see it. Yes, unfortunately, you can't block other content like religion and stuff, but yes, you can. You have the right not to read it, to ignore it. You see what it is and go about your business somewhere else. But respect the freedoms and rights of other people, because they're the same freedoms that you have. That if they start taking them away from them, guess what? You're next. I see it all the time. I see it on Twitter. I see it on Gab. I see it on the Mind. People say, oh, it's a free speech platform. As soon as they see something that goes against their label, oh, no, I'm not going to be here. They're allowing that. Wake up. That's what a free speech, true free speech platform is. Whether you like it or not, that's what it is. And that's why we have all the problems we have. That's why we can never come together as a whole group and defend anybody's freedoms and rights. That's why it's always a fraction. Then when we get that fraction together, oh, that person's what? No. Then that fraction separates into two fractions. Then the separation continues, and we're so splintered. We're not a whole group. That's what you guys got to understand. You got to break that mold. Break that way of thinking. You want to be free? Truly free? Stop thinking like that. Then you have control. Then you have control of your life. Then you might not be so judgmental. I mean, yes, there's some stuff I don't like. But I'm an adult. I'm grown. I know. I respect what they're doing. It's not for me. I'm moving on. Don't want to watch it. Don't want to see it. So therefore, click to the next page or scroll past it. But no, we're programmed to hit the like button or dislike button. We become programmed to, oh, that's inappropriate content. Let's flag it. We've been programmed to be triggered. We've been programmed to be judgmental. That's why we can never catch a break on any of these things. That's why we see groups and organizations and movements splinter, or the narratives change. One, we don't question, ever. Two, by not questioning, we see certain people are coming in that we know aren't about what that organization is about, and we speak up, but by then it's too late because this group of people has changed the narrative to where it no longer means what it meant when it first started. We witnessed that happen. Because yes, there is bad people. There is people that do infiltrate these groups just to cause dissension and division and chaos. To splinter them. You know? And that's just the way it's been forever. Because we are taught to not break political lines, not question a political party. Or we're brought up and raised to be, particularly to that one side of the political party. Instead of be free thinkers, question things. Knowing that that party is not about us. That party is about their ideology, their ethics, their views. It's all one-sided and oriented. It's a label. Then we have the sub-labels, the subcategories, the subjections that subjugate, that break off into conservative, liberal, and the various other ones that's really too many to name. That's how ridiculous it is. Then we go to the next party. Oh, they have their subdivisions and sub-labels that subjugate. When their only job is to protect the Constitution, uphold the Constitution, pass laws that we, the people, want, that don't violate the Constitution, make sure our borders are safe, make sure our country's thriving economically, that there's jobs. being brought in. That's their job. Their job is not to rewrite the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. Their job is to defend that. You know, and it's time we start teaching our children that very truth. It's time that we start not re-electing these people that violate the oath they take. And putting the right people in. But, as I pointed out earlier, in order to do that, that requires a few other things. And even the one thing I haven't even mentioned yet, corporations. We got to ban corporations from ever being able to put any money into politics. Ever. Because what? You're not a U.S. citizen. You, by putting money in, therefore you are an influence in an election. For those lawyers out there, constitutionalist lawyers, there's your ammo. There's your silver lining and all that. You want to put an end to corporations? It's right there. They're not a U.S. citizen, so therefore they should never be allowed to contribute money to any political or politics. But that's not how it was how people chose to interpret it. Laws are a two-edged sword. It's up for interpretation. How you interpret it and how you sell that interpretation. But I think I've rambled on long enough. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know it was kind of lengthy, jumped around from subject to subject, but that's what Ramblings with a Chaotic Mind's about. Now, it's about talking about these things, running them through your head, questioning the things, bringing up new ideas and new thoughts, like the Facebook scenario with the analytics or whatever that stupid thing was. You know, why now? I hadn't thought about it until doing the show. Why now? It's a very good question. Why now? What's the catch? See, when we let our minds flow freely, just talk, bounce ideas back and forth, see what comes out of it. New questions or new insights, new understandings. Like, it makes sense about, younger generations not actually having their grandparents there. I realize the importance of my grandparents. And some of the people I've talked to in the past week, since I've heard that, they pointed out the same thing. So I talked to some of the younger generation. Well, what do you guys, how much time do you guys spend with your grandparents? Some never seen their grandparents. Others, very little. It goes back to another thing I was talking about, rewriting history, defacing things. Eventually that generation is no longer going to be here as living historical documents. They're the living, breathing history. They'll be long gone, and there's nobody to question. Did this really happen? You lived it? Or is this how it happened? The narrative they're telling now. Yes, that's how we've gotten here. That's why we're living in such troubled times. I mean, I'd like, as the optimist, if somebody likes to have hope and things, I'd like to think there's light at the end of the tunnel. But the realist in me keeps knocking on the door saying, by the time people get it, it'll be too late. We'll be past that point of no return. In the end, those that watch this, those that don't watch this, you'll be the ones that decide if the optimist wins or the realist wins. I mean, I'm always going to side on the optimist side and keep doing what I'm doing, but eventually the realist side will set in when you see you're past the point of no return and it's time to switch to a different gear. You know, like I said, I do things my way. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I like that. I actually do. I like not being everyone's cup of tea. I like the fact that, if I made you question something or think, I'm doing my job. I like it when you make me think and question because you're doing your job. And that's the way it should be. Not, oh, I'm offended. I got triggered. Should never be that. Because nothing I'm doing is to be offensive. It's all about making you question and think for yourselves. Free, so you can start freeing yourselves. I guys hope you guys have a beautiful week. Hopefully here in Ohio the weather starts warming up so we can actually start enjoying some spring. Can't wait to get outside and actually do some real work. Get some of these projects started. And just be safe out there. And realize what's taking place in front of you. That you do have a voice in it. Your voice is very important. Even if it's to disagree with things I've said or other people said, it's an important voice because we're going to learn from you. You might learn something when you're talking that you didn't realize, or something might dawn on you. It's like, wait, okay, now I get what he was saying, or she was saying. Think about that. Each of you have a voice and it's very important. Start using it. I think some of you think, well, I can't do videos. I don't have mics, good cameras. You don't need a good camera. You need, your computer mic will work just fine, or $7 Bluetooth. You don't need all the fancy stuff to do a video. You don't have to show your face. Go grab some graphic and just use the graphic or create your own. So you have an image up. Or just let the little Google thing show, the Hangout thing show its image. Whatever image you got is for an avatar. And just talk. The more people that actually start voicing their opinions, the more people that start coming out, the more pressure you put on the system to start listening. You guys all have a good night. I'll catch you on the next one.